Thank you very much, Mrs. Evenstein. And I think Sven Giegold today, he wasn't correct in saying this is a very unique example of opening up a German conference when the first slide you see is a slide on data protection. The second I would like to add is that our technology, unfortunately, sometimes is not as up to date as it should be. But I think that's perfectly fine. It's made good, actually, because we have the brewing company, or the former brewing hall, here just right around the corner. So, and yeah, thank you very much for inviting me to give a few opening remarks and introductory remarks to the session, success stories. And also, I would like to express my great thanks to the EUKI Secretariat, to Nele, to Elsa, to Ulrike, to the whole team, who are the driving force, Mrs. Evenstein, behind this whole event, who picked this wonderful location here in a former brewery, Kindl. It's a traditional German beer, Berlin brew. You will probably, one or two of you, taste a Kindl tonight, I hope so. And the title of this session has been nicely chosen, Success Stories. And for me, quite honestly, today, I've been here more than 2 hours now. I've already seen so many success stories. Few of which we had the chance to see today with State Secretary Giegold, but also three you were presenting in the morning. One was very close to my heart as well. It's on the implementation and preparation of the ETS2. And I think what we've seen here, the video, we may see later, maybe not, will probably give us a very good idea of the scale. The EUKI has reached by now, you've mentioned it's the 5th EUKI conference, and we are in our 7th year, we are in our 8th call, and we are really, and I think you should all be very, very proud on yourselves to actually have reached that capacity. And it's even better to get to know the faces behind these numbers you mentioned on this occasion, and I'm very, very glad to see that this room is filled with all the actors of the community. And Sven Giegold has said it, he has come from more or less the same background. And so you are the experts across all the specialized fields and the advocates creating awareness across sectors. This is often difficult for us to explain when questions like this come. So how can you actually, what is the tantamount of gigawatts you put down on the earth? What's the investment scale? So EUKI doesn't really work like this. You are multipliers, and you are teams, and you're cooperating across thousands of kilometers in some projects. So this is very, very special. What we just have not seen in the opening session in the video, but it emphasizes in any event the importance of the conference title. And what we see here now, what we see in the coffee break, I've seen it today in the morning, it's joining hands to drive the green transition forward. And what does it mean, actually? And it means that we should come together to find a common ground. And it means what Sven Giegold, I think you has underlined and expressed very, very well. It means despite opposing circumstances in differing national frameworks, we've seen the climate policy, we're all working in this field, has come under fierce attack, not least in my own country at times. And we see in certain areas also a rollback. We see now the Green Deal 2.0 is being developed. We are well advised to stand united against any possible rollback on climate policy. This cannot stand. And that's why the value of your work you are doing every day cannot be overstated. You are carrying the spirit of EUKI by making an impact not just in your own countries, but across all of Europe. European cross-border cooperation is of crucial relevance in this regard. It plays an integral part in solving the challenges Europe is facing today and in the future. And moving closer to 2030, we need to make sure we continue honoring the commitments, fully and swiftly implementing the Fit for 55 package and keep up the necessary level of ambition. Now, basically, the motto is very simple for the next EUKI call and for our challenges. It's implementation, and it's implementation. And to this end, it's really crucial, for example, that we prepare the rollout of the Fit for 55 package, such as we've heard it today with the ETS2, the social alleviation packages. What does it actually mean in different countries, in the poorer countries and in the richer countries? How can we control a possible increase of the carbon prices? EUKI can play an important role here, not only with ETS2 rollback, but also in the social climate plans that we've heard, but also with many other fields of implementation. Just to name a few, for example, we've been very successful in the Fit for 55 package with renewable energies, with the EPBD, the building directive, in the transport sector. And another sector that's lagging behind is, of course, agriculture, where a lot of work needs to be done. We have adopted the certification framework, which is a very tricky instrument that needs to be put in practice. So there I see a very vast potential for the EUKI to prepare this implementation of this whole package. And if you may have realized that Europe is boiling. It's boiling. We've seen an increase in natural disasters and record high temperatures, not only in Europe, but around the world. Europe is the fastest heated continent so far. So that's why we can all agree that this interim target for 2040 on our way to climate neutrality will be a cornerstone of the next phase of the European Green Deal. And this discussion, of course, has many facets. Renewables, finance, cost efficiency, and in my view also national responsibility that will play a key role in a spirit of solidarity and accountability. Now, we have a discussion on this tomorrow, and I look very much forward to this discussion. And setting the right target for 2040 is, of course, of undeniable importance, not least due to its role as a guiding compass for post-2030 climate and energy framework for our businesses and industry. We need to get all sectors ready for net zero, energy, to buildings, to mobility, manufacturing, agriculture, and more. Firstly, of course, because every sector plays a role in achieving a net zero economy. Secondly, because reducing emissions, promoting clean energies, and using green energy also strengthens Europe's economic competitiveness. We've heard it in the morning from Sven Giegold. They are key in ensuring sustainable growth all over the continent. Later today, therefore, with my colleague Malte Bornkamp from our industry division in my ministry, we will have the opportunity to dive deeper into the needs and potentials of the industrial decarbonization. Because Germany, as an industrial champion, we cannot afford to find climate change, but somehow find ourselves on a route to deindustrialization. We need to show, we are the first ones to need to show that the green transition also works hand in hand as an industrial country. Also in the face of threats, competitive threats from across the Atlantic and in the eastern part of the world. So this discussion here at EUKICON will also entail how climate action can move with the times, involving and engaging the young generation, as well as using digitalization and the rise of AI as a catalyst for greater impact. However, many of you are active on the ground, on local levels where it matters most. This is exactly what makes it so important that we come together here today and talk about these issues, that we engage in discussions, exchange what we've learned, and showcase what we have accomplished. And, of course, learn from each other. In the 7 years since the EUKI's foundation, we have witnessed that there's surely no shortage of ideas. We've seen it today, and we see it today as well. Quite the opposite, in fact. The EUKI community continues to impress with its inventiveness, its will to innovate and to find solutions. The ideas to tackle the climate crises are there. Now they need to be scaled up and be supported by the right political framework. And that is exactly what gives me confidence for the years to come. It is seeing the diversity in this room. We've seen it today, the geographic areas where you come from, the different sectors you work in, and not just in geographical terms, but in expertise and your experience. Next, now, eventually, we will hear directly from some EUKI projects about these experiences, and I'm looking forward to learning more about your work. Today and tomorrow will be your opportunity to shine a spotlight on these experiences, to talk to your peers, and to share your ideas. I now look forward to the presentation of more success stories and the discussions with all of you. So let's join hands to drive the green transition forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Simon, you can have a seat, if you don't mind, on stage with me. But before I actually call up the 4 representatives of our success stories, we're going to try and watch the film. Should we do that? Can we? It's just so nice. We really didn't want you to miss out on it. And I think it's also in the spirit of EUKI. If at first you don't succeed, you try again. And Maestro, let's have a look. So I think that was worth waiting for. Right, so as you can see, there's a lot going on, and for this session, we're inviting only 4. And again, I would like to emphasize, these are representatives of 4 projects that have been underway a lot longer. The vast majority of you are involved in relatively new projects, so at the very beginning of the implementation stage. But these guys are a bit further along in their projects, so that's why we're really excited to hear their insights and for them to share their experiences from the field. So let's get them all on stage now. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Adrianna Borowicz, Zsofia, Yasen, Georgiev, and Aleksandra Szmurlik-Dominguez. Hello. There's a step, or women take charge. So welcome, everybody. So these are our high chairs to feel tall and powerful. So before we get started, why don't we just start perhaps with a brief introduction of who you are and of your project. So why don't we start just with you, Adrianna?
Yes, hello. Hello, Berlin. I'm from Poland. I'm a journalist focused on environmental topics. And thanks to EUKI project, I started a new chapter in my professional life. Because I took part in a fellowship for Polish and German journalists, and till now I'm still working for DW Europe section and Polish section, so this is me.
Fantastic, welcome. I also work for DW, so we're colleagues actually. So, Yasen.
So hello everyone. So I'm representing a consortium of 10 NGOs from across Central and Eastern Europe. So on behalf of these 10 NGOs, I can just say that we completed the project in the beginning of this year, actually. And one of the key milestones of this project was to create a database with projects, climate-related projects, funded with European support all over the countries. And this database includes almost 300 projects. Many of these projects are best practices, but we also have highlighted some mistakes and some areas for improvement. And based on this, we try to raise awareness about how we can increase the efficiency of EU funding when it comes to climate-related projects.
Super. Zsofia.
Thank you. It's okay, yeah. Good morning, still it's morning for everybody. I'm Zsofia from Energiaklub Climate Policy Institute from Hungary, and representing the project SURF, which is the abbreviation of Sustainable Building Renovation, Forming the Future. And yeah, briefly, that's it. I think I will give the floor to you.
Okay, and last but not least, Aleksandra.
Hello, everyone. I'm Aleksandra, and I'm project coordinator in WiseEuropa, and representing today one of our projects, Wind4Bio, which aim to increase the social acceptance of the wind energy in 3 countries. We are operating in Greece and Latvia, and we are doing this by involving different stakeholders, almost all the sectors, to promote the change.
Mm-hmm. So very different sectors, very different areas of focus, but what they do have in common is their impact on the ground. So that's very exciting. Aleksandra, you mentioned stakeholders, and we even talked about it a little bit this morning, how important it is to connect people with each other, also target groups that may be sometimes difficult to reach or where collaboration is not so easy. So can you maybe tell us a little bit more detail about how your project Wind4Bio, what did you do to facilitate more collaboration between all the different stakeholders? And maybe you have some ideas for others within the EUKI community could also apply in the work that they do.
Yes, so yeah, we have some lessons learned during this project that, as you said before, it's lasting more than 1 year already. And actually because we knew that we will have to connect with different sectors, all different stakeholders need to be approached with different plan, let's say. Already during writing a project, we reached to the local authorities because we thought somehow that maybe it will be the most challenging sector to get involved as much as we need for the project. And what we did was to ask them for the letter of support and letter of cooperation. And actually that works really well for us because after a few months when we reach again to actually start implementing the project, they somehow were obliged already to work with us, because of course we know how is it with life, like people also change, and there are some agreements that maybe after a few months they are not longer so valid for the local authorities in this moment, and it's normal. A lot of different things is happening, not only our project. But I have to say that this cooperation so far was one of the most success stories, because we have an offline workshop that attend almost 20 representatives from the local authorities from the north region of Poland, and it was and they are still with us, and they are still working on the recommendation and sharing good practices. But also we have some hard lessons that we learn with the business sector that we maybe approach with a not really good plan, and on one meeting that we made online, they ask us directly, like, okay, so what we should do, what kind of recommendation already you have for us? And we say, we don't know, we want to work on it together. And they started to leave the meeting because it was online, so we left with nothing. And then we start to think, okay, how to do that, like how to approach this sector. So they will be interested, and they see also for them benefit from that. So we are starting now with more individual connections, and actually we have quite a nice results with hearing the needs from this sector and what kind of recommendation they can give us and what we can do together. So this individual approach and the need assessment for different sectors, I think it will be also a good lessons that we learn. And try not to make online meetings, because offline is quite harder to to live. But yeah, this will be our lessons.
Yeah, thank you very much. Something else that I think is very important when it comes to climate action is education, because if people don't understand or know what to do, or if they can't be upskilled, then it's really, really difficult. And Zsofia, you mentioned that your project is focused on peer-to-peer learning. And this is in the area of sustainable building renovations. Can you tell us a little bit about how this worked, and why do you think specifically peer-to-peer education was so effective?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Just briefly, what we mean under sustainable building renovation, it's mainly with the focus of circularity. So starting from the reuse of brownfields and buildings, just to the use of natural materials and such things. So these are what I am or we are talking about with our partners from Romania and here from Germany. And yeah, peer-to-peer is, you know, maybe so when people are learning from each other, not from experts. And why it's good, it's always interesting to see that somebody like me can do something, can reach the goal about what I'm just thinking about. That would be nice to do something on this topic. So for us, this peer-to-peer learning process was very successful. The interest of local public authorities was higher than expected. Instead of 2 or 3 from Hungary, we had 6 participants, and even more from Romania. And we could see really inspiring practices of the German municipalities in person. Last year, we had a study trip to Luckenwalde, which is not very far from here, and also we visited the really inspiring buildings which are just next to this conference hall here, the Circular Economy House and the House Altag, if I'm pronouncing well. So we also met the founder of Restore online platform. I hope it's the name of it, which is an online marketplace for second-hand building materials. So it was really successful, and also we feel that this topic is, at least in our region, in Central Europe, it's quite new, not in the mainstream, and we really need to learn good practices. So thank you for the support of EUKI and the occasion.
Yeah, thank you very much. Before we hear from the other two EUKI projects, Simon, I just wanted to give you an opportunity if you want to ask a question, or if you want to share something that stood out for you in what you've heard from the first two projects that we heard from.
Yeah, I think it's remarkable, you know, enhancing the social acceptance of wind onshore is certainly a subject that's also very interesting for us, for Germany. And I'd be interested to hear if you can share, you know, what are the major challenges and what are the. I think you just stopped right short on saying. So, what are the takeaways? How can you actually enhance the social acceptance of wind onshore? What are the ingredients? That would be one thing. And another thing, I'm surprised to hear that you actually come to Germany to learn from us how to renovate in the building sector, because the building sector, okay, it's not the biggest laggard in Germany. We have another sector that's even worse, but the building sector is also not so, let's say, one of the top of the pop sectors. So is there anything you would say, being an expert, peer-to-peer, you'd say, well, you know, the German renovation is not that bad, or we can learn this, or maybe you could say that this is an expertise, something I can bring with me and explain to our German colleagues. What's the advantage, so to say, you can bring to the table there?
I think that in our project so far, we don't have exact now the recommendation and the points that what is working in the long-term view. But for sure, I would say that the cooperation of the different sectors together to find this common ground will have a really big impact on this increasing the acceptance. And also somehow this need assessment that I was mentioning. This is something that we need to go for more, like just to understand the different stakeholders connected with the topic and what are their needs and how we can approach to that. So I think that we are trying, of course, we have one publication about the good practices that we are having so far. We are also working on the consulting mechanism that will be available and that can gather feedback from everyone, actually, also from experts, but also from the local community. So I think that for now, this is it, we can say.
That actually leads me to Yasen, because your project is in fact focused on collecting best practice examples, as far as I understood. So maybe you can share with us what your experience has been, like what is the process of systematically gathering best practice examples, and then once you do that, how do you make it accessible for a bigger audience?
Okay, very good question, in fact. So when we started the project, we wanted to go beyond the official channels when it comes to project information. So what we did is to reach out to stakeholders, and we went beyond the big cities. So we approached partner organizations in small municipalities, and we invited them, also people, citizens, regular citizens, to submit practices on our open access database. So this was one of the solutions, to provide an open access database in which every single citizen could submit a practice, a best practice, or a practice that has a bottleneck in the funding. So from that perspective, we tried to be very approachable and very flexible in reaching out to people. And then when we collected these almost 300 examples of projects, we of course checked them against the official information to see whether the submitted information is in line with what stands behind this. And we summarized and analyzed these projects, and then with the actionable recommendations that we prepared, we tried to be quite, let's say, flexible in reaching to stakeholders. Why I'm saying flexible? Because the implementation of this project coincided with of course, with COVID-19 at the beginning, then with Russia's war against Ukraine, then with the energy crisis in Europe, then with the conflict in the Middle East, and we had to be really innovative from that perspective. And what we did, I mean, all the organizations in the consortium, so we tried to be active in traditional, but also in social media, and not only being like active communicator in this, but we engaged in forums like this, in events in our countries, but also in the wider EU, in order to speak about our warnings, about our recommendations. And we approached stakeholders at national and European level. So I especially had the chance to speak to the European Commissioner Gentiloni and to present the EUKI project to them. So I think this is one of my personal takeaways from the project. To go to speak to the European Commission to discuss what could be done better is one of the avenues that was made possible thanks to this project. So I think as a summary, it was a kind of very on-the-go project. I mean, we started with the initial idea of what to do, but then we had to accommodate all the things that were happening in the meantime. And at the end, I'm happy that we were able to live up to the expectation of the EUKI community.
So this also is a very nice link to Adrianna, your work, because also the task of journalists is to provide the general public with accurate, useful information. And I know that you're an alumna of something called the International Journalist Programs, EUKI Fellowship, and what you did was, as part of that, you told inspiring stories about climate action for different European audiences. So maybe you can share one of those stories with us, and also when you try and write about these topics, what do you think is the best way to make audiences interested and for them to understand the importance of this topic?
So first of all, I'm not matching perfectly to this group because I'm a journalist, so I'm not an expert. I can tell that I'm a storyteller because I'm somewhere in the middle between the experts, policymakers, and audience. So for me, it was a great experience to spend 6 weeks in Bonn, in the DW headquarters, to cover and to find topics on the field. I'm not a kind of journalist that is sitting in front of the desktop and just searching for the information on the internet. I have to touch it, to speak to people in face to face. So one of the stories was very interesting. I discovered that the city of Bonn has an online map of solar potential of rooftops. So every citizen can type in the address and check the solar potential of the rooftop building. So after that, that person will know in what part of the rooftop is the most strong for this kind of investment, and how much energy can it produce, and how much CO2 emissions will be saved this way. And it was surprising also that if all the rooftops will be used for PV systems, Bonn can produce up to 50% of needed energy for itself. So it was an amazing story, inspiring very myself and also my audience. And another story was very related to citizens, because I attended a workshop which was pretty strange at the first glance. It was counting the insects. So it was a special workshop for residents to help scientists counting insects on their balconies and gardens. And in long-term perspective, it will help scientists to check what is the condition of environment. So everybody was very enthusiastic, including me. And I'm aware that these days, in the middle of European Parliament election campaign, speaking about climate change and spreading the facts, not the fake news, is very important. On last Sunday, I heard a big debate in right-wing Polish media outlet about the climate change that is fake. I was really surprised, but you know, this kind of opinion still exists, and we as a journalist have to fight with it and spread true information.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Simon, now you've heard from all 4 of the projects. What are the most important things that maybe you learned from what you've heard?
I think diversity is very important for the implementation of EUKI. And when I just heard the last report, I was actually just, my mind was working, should we not do a little bit more storytelling, positive storytelling? In particular, okay, now on the 9th of June we have EU elections, maybe a bit too late now, but this is exactly what we at Sven and Giegold, what we have in mind. We need to bring out positive stories, how climate change works and how we can partner with people, how we can partner with farmers, how we can partner with people affected, that they are not being treated as children, but as equal partners. And the stories you have been gathering and many other of us have been gathering, maybe we should put them a bit more upfront and treat them a bit more with higher priority. This is one thing. So diversity, certainly, and positive storytelling. And I think we should not give in, as Sven has said. Even though the times may become more difficult, we should just do our job and do what's good for the climate and for future generations and eventually also for us. So I don't have a silver bullet as an answer. There's so many interesting projects. But that will be my take for now. We keep on, maybe last thought, we keep on, I'm really thinking now, aligning our EUKI focus on, of course, the Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Policy focus, as we announced in our 8th call, which is only fair because we are on a new government now. But maybe we should overthink that policy, since we see sectors are lagging behind, and should spread our focus a little bit more. So this is my current. You put me on the spot here. That's what I'm thinking. More diversity, maybe.